How much of this kind of balance was in the script?
Well, it was a very good script. You know, I read so few that you really can't put down. I mean, I was reading this thing like it was no tomorrow. You know, I thought, yeah, this is wonderful. Yeah, and I was dying to know what would happen to him, and what else could this woman do to him, and when would the wife find out, and when would he eventually have to own up to his infidelity? And it you know, the screenplay had huge inbuilt tension and an energy, which so few scripts have. Obviously, in the end, a script is just a framework, and you have to make the family breathe. You have to believe that this kid, Ellen, you know, is always eating chewing gum, and her mother's always trying to pull it out of her mouth. You know what I'm saying? And the kid teaches endlessly the father those awful card tricks, and you know, I hopefully I added a lot to it in terms of texture that makes a movie relationship, if you like, into a real relationship, you know, a real family. It was a fabulous script, though. One thing I particularly like is when you have a fairly simple expositional scene, like, for example, there's a scene early on, not a very dramatic scene, but a scene when they're leaving the lobby of the apartment. The family is Michael and Glenn, and Michael and Ann Archer, mm-hmm. and the kid Ellen, and the wife is talking to Michael. Ann is talking to Michael about going up to the country, and he's sort of arguing with her, and he's saying, well, we really can't afford this place, and why are you going? And at the same time as he's talking to Anne, the kid is talking to the father and saying, Dad, will Grandpa be up there? So you've got two traces, you know, two threads now, and the third thread is that at the same time, Anne is saying to the mother, is saying to the daughter, have you got chewing gum in your mouth again, Ellen? So you have three concurrent dialogues, do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Going on at the same time. And I love that, layers out, because all of a sudden you think, shit, this is real. You know,
I mean, it's even adding another layer is the dog.
Yeah, right. And then suddenly it's a pleasing feeling. It's a feeling that, you know, a full sort of...
and visually also you paint, I mean, all of your films are visually, you know, distinctive and distinguished. It was interesting in this particular film, the difference between the Gallagher's home and Glenn Close's apartment, and how in very subtle ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, you know, Glenn's was rather sort of cold and featureless, and lacked obviously all of the domesticity of Michael's home, and in terms of props and things like that, I wanted hers to be really, Glenn's apartment to be really rather sparse and just have a pile of manuscripts by the bed, which is sort of right for an editor. I saw a number of editors' apartments and tried to find out what was the common denominator, you know, and as an opposite to that, obviously the apartment was cluttered with props and bits and pieces and Polaroids and all of the clutter of a family, and I tried to keep you know, those colours in the apartment, sort of browns and beiges and warmish colours as compared with the other one, which was basically white and rather cold, you know.
These were all real locations?
Yes, I always shoot on location. I much prefer that, you know. It's in a way it's one less thing to worry about, you know. If you shoot in a studio, you're always trying to work out whether you're going to float the ceiling or whether you're going to float the wall and when you're going to put it out and how long it will take to take it out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what's nice is that on location is this is it, fellas. You know, you got to get on with it.
And the audience feels that too.
I think so. Yeah, I hope so. I think they do as well, because an art director never quite gets this sort of clutter, this sort of you know, the dust in the corner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I love that shit. I think it makes it breathe better.
And in terms of
and I think it helps the actors as well. I think when they're not a stage removed from reality, you know, when they're actually in a real kitchen where the gas really works, you know what I'm saying, rather than it being a phony.
In terms of your, you know, location sound, I mean, do you...
It's tough, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Can be.
But then of course you always have, I mean, with the post-production technologies today, I mean, you can really...
Yeah. I mean, afterwards, everybody screams "Blue Murder" at the sound recorder. Recorders, they would moan about it, but in the end, I think it's worth it. I mean, for example, Glenn's apartment was really in the meat market, or on the edge of it, and so it was a nightmare with trucks and stuff. But it was nice the fact that now and then, without even realizing it, I guess, you can see out of the windows and you can see what's going on out there.
How did you get involved in this project?
Well, I was in France. I got a place in France that I go to as much as I can. Truthfully, I like the French. I love that. We talked about that earlier. I love the French cinema. And I was in France, and I was sent in Provence, actually, in the south of France, and I was sent the script there. It came in a post, and I read it. I read it and just couldn't put it down. And I'd just finished 9.5 weeks and taken a little bit of a battering at the hands of practically everybody on that. So the last thing I really wanted to do was to do another movie, but I thought that this had a potential for really strong performances, and also I think I learned, hopefully we'll always learn, but I hope that I learned from the mistakes I made on 9.5 weeks, and I hope that this, I'm much more pleased with the way the visual side of this movie backs up the performances rather than swamps them. And I think it's much stronger in that. I'm pleased with it in those terms, anyway.
Well, again, this really is, in a sense, something of a departure.
It's a less stylized movie, I think, than the last one.
Absolutely.
The last one was a sort of rather glossy movie, and if I was doing 9.5 weeks now, I think I would do it more like I've just done this movie.
I mean, listen, you have such a strong narrative line in this film.
Yes.
Along with the fine acting, the interplay of the music and the visuals.
Music, I'm very pleased. Maurice Jarre's music's good.
Yeah.
Because there again, it doesn't take over, but it's there.